Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me today on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. And yeah, there was a little bit of a pause there as the platform I was using said it was super busy. So I guess a lot of people are trying to go live, but here we are today. And coming up before we get to today's interview, I have actually another virtual interview this afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the West Coast. And Aviv is going to be joining me, who I believe is based in Toronto, Canada, and she's 14 years old. And she's put out some amazing pop music, and we're going to talk about that and everything she's doing during this time. So that should be interesting. And then tomorrow I've got Carl Garcia, who we had to reschedule from last Thursday, is coming back tomorrow, Thursday, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Carl, if you're not familiar, is a wonderful actor and musician and videographer. So we're going to be talking about all the things that he's got his hands in. I do have a phone interview, which I haven't done in, I don't know, maybe 2 years. So that's something, unfortunately, people won't be able to see, but you will be able to hear it once I get it uploaded to my respective channels. And then on on Monday, the 15th of February, this coming Monday, I have a scheduled interview with Annika van Heersbergen, who is originally from The Gathering and has been doing a lot of solo work over the years. And so that is going to be on Monday, the 15th for sure. And that's 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I just started posting about that as I have known about it for a while, but I had to hold off on posting it till it was appropriate, and now it's appropriate. But let me do a quick change here. Hi, Industrial Girl. Good afternoon to you. Nice to see you again, as always, virtually. And I can see my screen's a little off here. So let's get to my guest today. My guest today is a guitarist, musician, and songwriter. As the founder of the melodic rock band Creye, who recently released their second full-length album, 2, which I have, let's see, right here. Dun, dun, dun. He is bringing his brand of music to new generations. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Andreas Gullstrand. Hi, Andreas.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing really well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. So nice to be here.
Thank you for joining me. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about Creye and everything else going on. And yeah, so that's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
All right. And hi, Bessie, who's in Greece. Nice to see you joining us as well from YouTube. So let's see. Let's kind of get into things. Creye. And so the reason I'm laughing, folks, is that I had to ask Andreas, how do you pronounce the band's name before we went live? Because I was like, is it Creye? Is it Creye? And then when he said Creye, I was kind of like, oh. But I know that you're the founder of Creye. It's something that you wanted to do that you can develop over the years, add the layers to it. You've been playing music with Grand Slam and other projects in the past. So what did you want to see from Creye in the beginning?
Well, mostly I just wanted to do my own thing. So I just started it like as a studio project. And I just wrote like the first song, Never Too Late, that was released like in 2016. And well, I got a huge response from it. And so I thought, well, maybe I should do something more with this. And I started to look for permanent members of the band. And that took like a year probably, and then we released the second EP, Straight to the Top, and we were mostly complete. We still hadn't found a singer, and after that was complete, we found the first singer that was doing the first album, and well, we took it from there simply.
Okay, and for me, being here in the U.S., and I grew up in the 80s, that I love hearing anything that's got the nice chorus, a lot of melodies going on, and clearly Creye has all of those elements. And I'm just curious, for your own personal background, were there bands that you grew up with that you just really loved certain styles of that melodic rock AOR type of style?
Well, melodic rock, I didn't find that until pretty late, as you know, as a term. I grew up with like Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and stuff like that, but I always tended to draw more to, you know, music that had like a melodic pop element to it. So after Maiden, it was probably like Dream Theater, stuff like that. And for a period, I was drawn into styles like Gent and stuff like that. But then, you know, 2011, like that, I found Heat, and that was my ticket into the melodic rock genre as a term, as a, you know, specific genre. And you know, I've always been drawn to 80s music from movies, for example, like Rocky, and that is a movie that's been like a huge part of my youth. So you know, Survivor obviously has always been there, but not that I like actively search for melodic rock bands or known about AWAR as a term specifically. But yeah, well.
Okay, and wow, I saw Survivor live back in the day. Oh my gosh, it was, it was the When Seconds Count tour. So when they were doing Is This Love, and basically the follow up to the was it Vital Signs they had, you know, The Search Is Over and all those big hits that they had, High on You. But they're fantastic live.
I love what intrigues me really much about Survivor is, you know, the fact that they're so, you know, downscaled musically. They're very simplistic elements. You know, there's no huge production. There's no, you know, it's very simplistic. It's all about the melodies and the chords and the performance. There's, you know, I can really respect that, and it sounds amazing. So I really love the simplicity of what they're doing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They kind of put everything together in the right amount of you know, musical timing and things of that. And having seen them live, they kind of do the same thing too. It's like, put these pieces together to make a great song and a great performance, and that's kind of it. We don't need to overdo it. We don't need to add extra things. It's just kind of, here's what we do, and putting it out there. And I'm kind of curious with the second album from Creye. When did you guys start working on the writing process? Was everything kind of done before the pandemic hit, I assume?
Yeah. Well, we wrote for most part of 2019, and I think we even started writing like at the very end of 2018. So yeah, 2019 was probably the year where most part of the writing was done, and we were actually nearly done with the entire album, and then we got on tour with The Vicious and Michael Borman fall of 2019, and then we just didn't have time until like late December to finish things up, and then the new year, and then yeah, we hit the studios like February, March, something like that, and that's obviously also when the pandemic hit. So we were always scheduled to be in the studio for the beginning of 2020, and so at the beginning we didn't have any gigs planned for that part of the year, and we, you know, so it didn't really affect us at the beginning, but as we, you know, headed more towards the summer and we started to be done with the album, we had quite a lot of shows booked for the summer, so we started to get really worried, but yeah, luckily we used the time wisely with the writing and the studio, and it fell in pretty pretty good with the pandemic, as good as it could be.
Sure. Does that also mean that like the music videos that you released, like for Broken Highway, were those done pre-pandemic, or did you guys do that during the pandemic?
We actually did it during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And Broken Highway was done only a few months ago. So actually, they were shot by me, both of them. So
Oh,
that was a huge process as well that we hadn't really been doing before. But yeah, it was a fun task, and I don't think that I would have been able to do that if we were touring or stuff like that. Then we maybe, but this year or the past year it gave us time to try different, try doing things differently, simply.
okay. Yeah. No. Well, the video came out beautifully.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah, congratulations to you. And so, do you have a background in videography and that kind of thing?
No, not really. Wow. Well, I've always been interested in movies and stuff like that, and so when things didn't work out with people that we had hired to do the Siberia video, I just bought a camera and decided to do it myself like 3 days before we were going to shoot. And well, I'm not really happy about the Siberia video because I did a lot of beginner errors. I didn't really have time to learn the camera, but Broken Highway I'm pretty happy about. I had a couple months to prepare for that one, so.
Wow. Yeah. No, and that makes sense. I mean, especially considering the timeline you just mentioned for the Siberia video, that if you just grabbed a camera a few days before you had to start shooting it, then yeah, things are going to happen. And I think all artists are kind of our own worst critics too. So you're kind of always looking, oh, I could have done that better. Oh, why did I do that?
That's the beauty of the game, so to speak.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious too, that since we're talking about Siberia, and for people that are watching this, if you're not familiar with Creye, it's on the again on the second album here that I bought like a month ago or so. Is that song reminds me of like a Toto song, and I don't know if it's because of it being a country and Africa and all that kind of thing, from Toto's background, or is there any kind of influence from Toto on that particular song?
Not at all. You're actually only the second guy to ever tell me that it sounds like Toto, and I'm equally shocked now as I was the first time I heard it, because I can't really hear any resemblance at all. But when you're speaking of the title, I can definitely get the reference. But no, there's no Toto influence at all in that song for me personally.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I think for me, maybe it's just because of how like the chorus modulates or something, and there's something about that just kind of reminds me of Toto's Africa. So the whole the verses don't remind me of it at all, but there's something about the chorus. But yeah, fair enough. I just curious as I listen to it.
That's a huge compliment. So I really appreciate that you think that. But well, yeah.
Yeah, no, the music's really awesome. Oh, thanks to Joshua Girls. I see that you have to leave. Thanks for joining us, and you can always catch the rest of this. It'll be still on my Facebook and my YouTube channel, so you can catch the rest of the conversation. And yeah, when you mentioned that you guys were writing everything and then getting together, what's the writing process like for Creye? I mean, do you guys kind of have certain? I was looking through the credits, and there's different credits for different songs from different band members, but do you kind of work on your own and come together as a group, or do you kind of just come together as a group and try to flesh stuff out?
Well, mostly I'm doing the productions and putting it all together. And we meet. I meet with different members when they got time, and we write stuff together. And some of the members are more into the writing part of it, and well, they just like to be a part of the process a bit more. So some of the members are writing songs on their own, and then we do that together, and I put it together we like to call it cryifying it, because some of the songs maybe don't sound a lot like Cry in the beginning, but then I put my touch on it, and then it's suddenly Cry. And some of the members are with me when I do that, and add a lot to the mix. But this album differentiates a lot in the way that when we had the songs completed, we got together as a band, and we really broke down every song, and everybody got a chance to put their touch in it, and change melodies and change chords and make it the end result. So everybody brought a lot more to the table on this one. And of course August and I spent a lot of time in the studio just working on melodies. I came up with some ideas, and then recorded some chords, and then I just called August and said, I want us to get together in the studio. And then he brought all these fresh airs and all of his great melodies into the mix as well. And then we some of the songs it took a couple of turns, and we got home, and no, this didn't work at all. And then we got back in the studio and we did it again, and I think that was a bit different than what we did for the first album. So everybody was a lot more involved in evolving. Everybody was more involved in the process of building the album. But I do most of the production at home, so it's hard for everybody to be at my place all the time, and most of the times I'm doing stuff in the middle of the night or whenever I'm feeling creative. So it's hard to be involved all the time, but I would really like to say that all the members have done a lot for this album. So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like it was very much much more of a band process than on the debut or on teaser things. And when you mentioned that you handle a lot of the production aspect of Creye, does that mean, so like, I mean, when I was looking at the credits and it says that, produced by Creye, does that mean basically you did all of that, and you do the mixing and the mastering too?
No, mixing and mastering was done by Dino Medenhodzic. But when I'm doing all the pre-productions and I'm like putting all together, but Joel, for example, did all the choirs, and all of the other members, when we had the pre-productions done, like I said, we got together, we broke everything down, and then we built everything up again together, and we did that as a band. So I'm not the only one doing this stuff, but because of the logistics of the all the files being on my computer, it's it's easier for me to put in all of the hours when I'm feeling creative.
Okay, and so this kind of goes back to when we were talking about the video work. So on the production side of things, do you have a background in producing and audio engineering, or is it just something that you learned?
I've been playing and writing songs for many years now, and that's something that has built up over the years. I think it was my time in Grand Slam where I really felt like I brought it to the next level when we did that album. And then it was far from perfect when I started Creye, and it's probably this album where I feel like it was a pretty good pre-production as well. But I'm learning as I go, so to speak.
Okay, well, again, just like with the video work, the production on this is stellar, and that's why I'm just floored that you've been handling so much of this stuff. Like you said, not completely on your own, but you've done the bulk of it because it's there at your house and you have the files and things. But it sounds amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and like we were talking earlier, with melodic rock bands or AOR bands, production is a big piece of that, and
Yeah.
so and the fans expect it. They want that thing just to kind of booming out of their speakers and take them away to those choruses and the melodies, and this album absolutely does that. So yeah, all your work that you put in it definitely has paid off.
So happy to hear that.
Yeah, and you mentioned doing the songs pre-production, breaking them down, building them back up with the band members. Was there any particular song that was just like, man, this one really is not coming together, and it's a struggle to finally get it to a point where everybody was happy with it?
Well, we're really perfectionists down to the you know the particle, and every song has had its process, and let the world know that song has been rewritten so many times, and only like a month before we finished up the whole thing, me and Gustav, we were rewriting the entire song. um, the same goes with Broken Highway. There was all the melodies changed for that one. Me and Arvid did a lot of the arrangement. Fredrik obviously had the original idea for that one, and then I rewrote the melody together with August. At the end of the pre-production period. So that one has had quite a lot of phases as well. Hold Back the Night didn't at all sound like that. We had some troubles getting it together, so we really had to do something with it. And I think it was Joel or Arvid that really changed that one up a lot. And Find a Reason, me and Ulrich Lundqvist, we wrote that, like, I think that was one of the first songs that was written back in like end of 2018 or beginning of 2019. And that too didn't sound at all like that. It was me and Arvid that made it a lot more heavy. It wasn't all that riff based in the beginning. So every song has definitely had its process, and we're really happy about what it ended up becoming. So
Yeah, well, rightfully so. Again, it's an amazing album, and I'm curious too. Were there any songs that just didn't make the album?
Well, there's always quite a number of ideas being proposed, and that's where I'm kind of like the one holding all the threads, because different members might be showing me a production of a song or a song that they might think will fit the album, and I'm able to say quite early on that, well, this is probably not going to work for this album, and I'm doing that with my own stuff as well. But obviously I'm doing that I can feel very, very early if it's not going to be something that is going to be enough. But we really do what we do very, very thoroughly. So if we're not in the process of, if we break it down, it's all chords and melodies, and if that doesn't work, we're not going to like go into the production stage where we start to consider songs for the album. So there were not any songs that we wrote, and we write everything specifically for this album, so everything made it for this one.
Okay, all right, and that makes perfect sense. There's always going to be ideas. There's going to be things that just don't quite fit the flow of where you're at for the band or for that particular album. So it kind of gets shelved, and maybe you revisit it down the line, or sometimes you don't revisit it at all.
Yeah.
I know being a guitarist myself, that's the kind of thing that happens. I've got riffs that are 20 years old that never seem to. They're just probably going to stay there for another 20 years.
Yeah. But sometimes you can find some old gold, so to speak, and Never Too Late is one of those songs that I revisited like my high school years to find some inspiration, and that is actually an old song that I wrote really far back in the days, and well, obviously I'm probably the only one that can tell that I've drawn some influences from that, but yeah, it sometimes you can really find some things that you don't understand why you have shelved it in the past, and that's really fun to go through old files as well, because yeah, sometimes you find some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, that's also true. You're very, very, very accurate with that. And I think, yeah, just that process sometimes can just kind of be fun to see something that was from 10 years ago that you listen to, and you say, okay, that's not very good. That's not very good. Then you hear something that kind of jumps out. Oh, what was that?
Yeah, but most of the time I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Oh man. Well, and speaking that you got inspiration from a high school period for one of the current songs. What were you like as a young person growing up?
Wow. I would say that I was probably really like immature, not immature as a I'm being a bully or doing like stuff like that, but just young, not in my decision making and stuff like that. I was always considered the little one, so that's something I bore with me, like most of my teens and stuff like that. So I was kind of energetic, very energetic, and I've always heard that if I do something, I do it like 2000%, and that's I really commit to something, and I didn't discover music until like I was 13, and when I did discover it, I practiced like 10 hours a day, and I did that for most of my teen years, and but I really didn't. I really do feel like I got a hold of things in my 20s, and I don't think that I would have been able to create something like Creye earlier than that. And that's why I'm so amazed about all these young pop stars and how they're able to do that at that age, because you're really young. You're not that evolved yet. At least I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I've actually thought about the same thing, just in general, about when I was into bands, when I was in my 20s or my 30s, even then. It didn't really hit me till I got to the age that I'm at now, because I'm much older than that.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about some of the bands that I like. Those guys were 21, 22, and I didn't feel like I became an adult until like maybe 25 at the earliest.
Yeah.
So if you're like 18 and you're singing in front of thousands of people or putting music videos out, especially in the pop world, I can't imagine trying to deal with that at that age, when exactly what you said. You're not fully developed. You haven't had any kind of experiences per se to help ground you. You're just kind of this thing ready to be molded still, and then you have all this stuff coming at you. Yeah, I can't imagine trying to deal with something like that.
But I'm like thinking of back at my high school years, and I even attended a music school. But even a few years after graduating from that, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? I I was so undeveloped even musically, and so far off from where I am right now, and that was I feel like that was wasted years of my life that I focused on on entirely wrong things about music. All my focus was about being the fastest guitarist alive, and and I didn't really know about timing, and I didn't really care about it until in my 20s, where I really had to start from the beginning again, and start. You can be the fastest guitarist ever, but if you can't do that and play to a rhythm, or play that in time, then what's it all for? So I really had to go back to the basics, really start, finding myself as a musician and not doing it as a sport or something like that. And I had a couple of friends when I was younger that had already started playing music, and I was kind of trying to catch up with them. So I really skipped a lot of the basics to be at their level, and that has really I really had to pay the price for that later. So yeah.
Again, I can kind of relate to that in a little way, in the sense that I started playing guitar in the '80s, so everybody was shredding, and all my friends locally were shredding, and so I want to do the exact same thing. I want to play fast. I want to impress people. I want girls to look at me or whatever it is. And then, but did I understand like chord structure or modulation or theory? No. And I had to go backwards when I got to college. It's like, well, can you write a song? Well, playing a million notes an hour isn't going to help me write a song. I have to understand how all these things work together. So, and I think sometimes it just comes along with some just general maturity.
Yeah.
And I'm curious though. So when you said that started getting into music around 13, did that include that you started playing guitar at 13? And what did you get introduced, or how did you get introduced to the guitar?
Well, like I said, my friends were already playing like from a young age. Some of them were playing guitar, and they actually wanted me to play the bass, but I thought it was so uncool. So I actually switched to the guitar like after a week or so. And then, well, that year I got my first guitar for Christmas, and started taking lessons. I practiced very hard. And then I think it was a year after that or something like that, I got my offer to play with a band with guys much older than me. So that's when I really started thinking that, man, I really gotta practice for this, because I'm nowhere near what they're expecting. So that's when I started like putting in 10 hours a day. And then I did that every day until I was like 19. And then I had to look for a job because I was out of high school. I was graduated. And then, when you start to work, you start to really reevaluate things. And you need that structure. You need to be very effective when you do stuff, because you don't have as much time as you do when you're a young person. And I'm very sorry, Mark, but I forgot the original question. But yeah.
Well, you basically explained it. I was just wondering, like, when you first started with guitar, how did you start with guitar? And you kind of mentioned your friends, were playing already, and then they wanted you to play bass. No, that makes you answered the question.
Great.
But that does raise another question. Do you play any other instruments?
Well, I would never play any other instrument live, because I'm not that good at it. But I play some piano. Obviously, I can play some bass. I don't do it, but I know how to do it. But I'm a guitarist, and that's what I'm all about. But doing all the productions and stuff like that, you need to know some piano. You need to know the basics of everything. Know for example, how a drummer would be able to play his instrument. So I need to know those basics to do a song properly. So I know the basics of everything, but I'm a guitarist mostly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And I'm wondering about as we're still in the pandemic lockdown here in February, and we're not really sure exactly what the rest of the year is going to look like. Are the members of Cry local enough where you could do like a live stream from a studio or from someplace, or is that even in the cards in the next few months?
We are very local, and we're actually going to start rehearsals pretty soon because we're actually, you know, uh, we're betting on that at least for this fall things are going to start opening back up, and even if they don't, we need to be ready because it can happen like that, and we need to be like you know first in line when that happens. We don't have the time or have you know we have we don't have anything to waste in terms of getting ready and stuff like that, so we need to be very ready when the pandemic is over. In terms of live streams, it is a expensive process to make them any good, and to have a shitty live stream, I don't really think that we or any of our fans would appreciate, hearing our songs played good, but with terrible audio and terrible camera angles. So if we're going to do it, it will have to require some, you know, grand budget, and I'm not seeing that right now, to be honest with you. But I'm not ruling it out. If we get the opportunity, then definitely. But there's nothing worse than seeing some artist you love doing something with shitty audio. So
Yeah, no, you raise a good point that there's been all kinds of varying live stream quality in the last year or so during this pandemic time, because I've watched some of them and had actually in some cases had to review some of them.
yeah,
And when they have the ones that look pristine, big money went into those things. And
yeah,
if they look all choppy and funky, and then it's like,
yeah,
maybe they're just using their phone to try to record something inside the basement, and it's it is what it is. Sometimes people are just trying to get something out there, but if you have a standard that you're trying to hit, that's not going to work. So that's fair.
I really appreciate or respect the musicians that are really trying to do the most of the situation. I can really uh, respect that a lot. But my ideology is, if you're not going to be able to do it very very well, then don't do it at all, because it's probably gonna destroy more than it is going to bring up. So yeah, that's our take on live stream right now.
Okay. And I guess one last thing, and this is kind of like picking your favorite child, but do you have a favorite song right now today off the second album?
Wow. I think War of Love is my personal favorite, because it's so, there's so many elements to it. uh, yeah, I really love War of Love most.
Okay, awesome. And Andreas, is there, you mentioned that you're trying to get the bands rehearsing so that hopefully things will work in your favor, that you can be back out and touring and playing shows and doing that kind of thing. Are there any bands that you would like to tour with?
Well, we always wanted to tour with Heat, for example, and that would be very. I think that we would be a good duo, and Smash Into Pieces maybe. I think those are the closest that are realistic. But well, if we were given the opportunity to go on tour with a huger artist, like a big pop artist or something that would obviously be the ideal for us. But Heat or Smash Into Pieces, they're both Swedish artists, and I think that that would be a awesome show.
Okay. Well, Andreas, again, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. I love the album. Hopefully, everybody out there, if you're not familiar with Creye or don't have the second album, go buy it, download it legally, pay for it, please.
Yes.
And hopefully, maybe down the road, if it's springtime and things are starting to look like they're going to open up, maybe we can do another virtual interview to help promote the tour and whatever else is going on with the band.
I would love that. I would really love that. I'm really thankful that you wanted to do this interview as well, because it was a great time for me as well. So
perfect. Thank you so much, Andreas, and have a good night over there in Sweden.
You too, Mark. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.